Oh, you're on mute. There we go.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes. How are you today?
Good. Hello, beautiful.
How are you? What are we ready for an exciting episode today? Number 4. I can't believe we're on episode number 4 already.
That's crazy. Time's flying. Summer's almost over already. Like I blinked my eyes and we're already almost to fall. What
I
happened?
don't even want to think about it. Don't even want to think about it. But I don't know if you've heard because this is a random update that is just came out like in the past 48 hours, but the third party cookie removal is no longer happening. Google has backed out and changed their minds and they've canceled it.
I actually saw that because I was making a reel about marketing updates, and that was the first thing that popped up that Google just nixed it. And I was like, what? All that hype for nothing?
Well, actually, that actually makes more sense. There wasn't that much hype around it. Like I went to a whole marketing conference, an international marketing conference, and it wasn't mentioned once. So I wonder if maybe that's why Google didn't have that much PR around it, is because they weren't 100% sure about it.
Yeah. I guess just us marketers knew it might be upcoming. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. It's
I
like they
mean,
mentioned it and then they stopped. And then they're just like, okay, we're not doing that.
I feel like a lot of us can just breathe now because that would have been a huge spanner in the works in terms of, collecting data and stuff. So from a data auditing, perspective, I'm personally super relieved.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
So that's the good news we'll start with today, but then we'll dive right in because we are going to cover two topics today, UTM tracking and collaboration. So UTM tracking, do you want to just describe to our viewers what UTM tracking is?
Yes. First, I've always just called it UTM tracking. I never actually knew what the UTM stood for. So if you're wondering, it's urchin? Is it urchin or urchin?
However, I think the second one is the way you pronounce it.
Urchin tracking module is what UTM stands for. It's a way to track where your posts are, or it will help you identify the traffic going to your website from like organic social media or advertisements or whatever medium you're using. And that's important because you should be testing and seeing what's actually performing well, and that's a way that you can do that. It provides you with your user behavior, what their preferences are, and what their engagement patterns are. So yeah, it's definitely an important aspect that you should be utilizing in all of your social media and ad campaigns.
100%. I paid ad campaigns, no questions asked. You should be using it on organic social, and email marketing is a given. Maybe next time you receive a newsletter, click through and you'll notice on that link after that question mark, you'll see source, medium, and campaign, and you'll start to see. And I always like to kind of just peek and see how people are labeling it. So that's what I'd really like to get into today is how do you label your UTM tracking? I have a personal strategy that I've applied to B2B, B2C. It always works. And I'm actually kind of surprised I don't see more industry experts on YouTube and in general talking about how to label. Everyone's talking about what UTM tracking is, but no one's talking about how you should label it. So I thought that was a good thing to get into today. So, how do you usually label your UTM tracking? Just to compare
Absolutely. I
strategies.
I actually just did this. I'm running a teas and tank sales campaign on Facebook for one of my clients for their summer sale, and on their UTM tracking parameters, I did it by each creative within the ad campaign. So one was a black classic flag tee. So the source was Facebook, the medium was an ad, and in the campaign I wrote teas and tanks, and then for the content I said black classic flag tee. So it gave me the exact where it came from. Like I will know that this link click was to this product, like no brainer. And I did that for each product, and it was relatively easy because the source, the medium, and the campaign was the same. It was just the content that I had to switch out. I think something that people may forget to do is creating a list, even if it's a spreadsheet, of all of your UTM parameters so you don't lose track of it, and you can import the data and you can actually see it, because it's easy to just type it all in and forget about it, but you need to actually use it.
That is literally was going to be my next question is how do you ensure cohesiveness? And I had asked this question to Michael from Ryanair at that conference, was how do you ensure cohesiveness? And he said the same thing, using spreadsheets. That's something I usually advise to people, is to create a spreadsheet. So you have one tab where you can just save your links. Because I do like to have my links saved, both the long and the short versions, because God forbid you need to go back and get it. Just having the tracking of it is good. But then having a sheet that you can have automatically drop down, because I think where you want to make sure that everyone in the company, because not everyone is going to be UTM tracking specialists. So making sure that that sheet is up to date for everybody who is making paid ads or organic posts or anything at all, especially emails as well, and your automations, that drop down sheet is up to date and ready to go. So everybody can make sure that their UTM links match up, because that UTM tracking affects all of your data, which affects your investors and your shareholders and everything. So you got to make sure that's all good to go. Looking back into kind of like just explaining a little bit more of what the UTM parameters are, because you mentioned source, medium, and campaign. So let's just explain to people. The source is where the traffic is coming from. That's usually Facebook, MailChimp, Klaviyo, Twitter, sorry, X, I should say. So that's your source, is where it's coming from. The medium is the channel type that's driving the traffic. Now, some people did it the way that you do it, ad. You can do it kind of any way you want to do it. The way that I usually do it is I have Facebook, LinkedIn, or what have you as the source. And the medium is usually, again, abbreviated. So if it's Facebook, it would be FB underscore organic or paid. So it would be FB underscore organic for an organic or paid. And then the campaign name is where, this is where I feel really passionate about starting with the date, because for non-US companies, you can start day, month, year. For US companies, year, month, day. And then underscore with the rest of your campaign. And the reason I do the date is because when I'm searching in whether or not it's a social or a third-party dashboard, you can just organize all your data by month, and it just makes it so much easier. And then if I'm looking in Google Analytics in GA4 and I see that, oh, June 29th, we had a really high traffic day, I have actually been able to track down a specific tweet that was a year old. And because it had the right UTM tracking on it, I was able to see that the traffic actually came from a year's old tweet. So that's really, we've got source, medium, and then the campaign name, which goes back on. So yes, so we have our source, which is where the traffic comes from. We have the medium, which is the type of the channel that's driving the traffic. And then we have the campaign name, which includes the date. For me personally, wondering your take on the date. Have you ever used the date before? Have you ever seen that done?
I haven't, and I was honestly going to be like, marketing hack. I think I'll definitely include it, because like you said, it's so much easier to pull up than trying to remember the exact campaign name and whatever. And that's very interesting that you're able to go back, search the date, and it pulled up the tweet that source the traffic to that campaign or whatever. That's awesome. Yeah. And then the last thing is the UTM term.
Yes, the UTM term, I actually don't use that often. What have you used it for? I know that's for, usually it's where you put in your testing information, but I put my testing information at the end of the campaign name.
Yeah, I think I usually skip over that and just do content.
Yeah, I think the term, those two other last tiers, those are for more advanced. If you're working in Google Ads and you're doing those kind of paid advertisements, that's where that kind of tracking comes in. So it's good to know, but it's not necessary for things like social media and email marketing.
Yeah.
But definitely good to know. And so I will drop in our YouTube upload, I will drop in the link to just these slides that I created of how to define your UTM tracking for social media. And that includes organizing by date, how you define your source, how you define your medium, and how to consider A/B testing, and how to do your campaign naming. So every brand is going to look different. It can be subject to change as time goes on. But the most important thing, again, is that spreadsheet that you brought up, to make sure that everybody in the company internally is doing the correct UTM tracking. So your audits and your reporting is as accurate as possible. And you can connect those dots way easier when your UTM tracking is done right. So yeah, anything else you want to kind of like add on that?
I think just you should incorporate UTM tracking into your social media management. I think it's very easy to overlook and just you can be like, oh, that's just another thing to add to the list. I don't feel like that. Let me just schedule it all. Do it. You won't regret it.
Well, I think the reality is, X Prize is a good example. When I came on board there, they were a multi-billionaire funded company. They didn't have any problems with budgeting, but they didn't have any UTM tracking. And you cannot provide reporting to people who are donating millions of dollars if you are not going to be providing the most accurate data. So that was one of the things that I did for them that solidified trust between them and their investors. And that's a really important thing, I think, to take into consideration too, is the trust between whoever you're sharing this data with. You want your data to be accurate, if not for yourself and your own business. But you're really losing money by not doing UTM tracking. You're losing opportunities, and you're losing customer information and customer data that could be very useful.
Definitely. I've also seen so you have UTM tracking, and I know a lot of businesses also use third-party tracking, especially for ad campaigns, because there sometimes is a discrepancy between what Facebook is actually reporting and the actual sales that the business is actually making. It can be most of the time inflated by Facebook, but sometimes they actually deflate the numbers as well. So any type of extra reporting that you can have to justify the actuality of what's happening is crucial. You have to have it.
That's where we'll go back to Sprout again. That's another reason why I really liked having them as a third-party dashboard, because they could, really just back everything up with double confidence, which is what you definitely want for sure.
Definitely.
So don't lose money. Use UTM tracking.
So are we ready to move on to collaboration?
Yes, let's crack into collaborations, because that is a good one. Do you want to kick us off here?
Yes. Actually, in my marketing life, like in the past few months, collaboration has been like the theme. I've been running some brand ambassador programs, hiring influencers. It's been crazy, but there's kind of like this, I don't know if it's a new world or more amplified world of influencer and brand ambassador programs. One that you can think of, what was I watching the other day? It was the real estate show on Netflix. The guy is selling real estate in Netflix or in New York.
Selling Sunset?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
One of those.
No,
real
it's
estate
not Selling
shows.
Sunset, but it's like the New York version. I forget what it was called. And it's interesting, this new environment that not only is this like your full-time job, but you're also your own personal brand, and then you're a brand ambassador to the company that you're working with. And they create kind of this whole ecosystem on social of tagging, using their codes, and cross-promoting against across all these different channels, which expands their reach. So I think right now we're in the era of collaboration. Let's stop. I mean, in addition to your paid channels, let's start using this organic social and partnerships to amplify what you're doing across the board.
That's exactly the whole reason we're here. It's because we were like, we need to team up, and actually it's been super beneficial. Like, we've created so much content, we've had such great conversations, we've created a whole new offer for people. So I mean, if that's not an example, let this be an example of collaboration. I have to agree with you. I do think we're in the era of collaborations big time, and especially when you are a newer brand or a newer personal brand, it's it's very helpful to have other people's audiences get your snowball rolling, really, because starting from scratch, it does take time. So
Yes.
influencers, I've also heard rumors of people actually having in-house influencers, which is kind of something that's newer on the scene. I don't think that gives anything of external influencers. I think that industry is still going to be there booming very much due to genuinity of the content. But other than influencers too, I would add, like, we have the totally tons of types. We have giveaways, we have podcasts. Meaningful actions is one I wanted to touch upon, is when you collaborate on, something that has purpose, that's like a petition, changing a law, or driving some sort of impact in a social way, and taking action to make that change. That's a very effective way, and it's a great thing for social, because that's what social is all about, is getting
Yeah.
initiatives with purpose out there. So meaningful actions is something I think, don't overlook that as a potential to collaborate with making changes for things that you care about as a brand, because people care about what you care about, and taking action, it's just very meaningful. Obviously, any PPC that goes around collaborations and media, you have cluster influencing as well. So giving a piece of clothing to not just one influencer, but all of their peers and colleagues around their network. So if you have 12 influencers in one niche circle, they're going to reach a lot of people, because it's the idea of like, oh, I see everyone else wearing this, and we as humans want to wear it too. And then, drum roll for the one that I feel like everyone overlooks, the customer. Collaborate with your customer.
Yes.
I've done this before in the fashion industry, where I literally actually booked a hotel for one of our VIP customers, got her into London with her husband, and gave her a full, all expenses paid date night with her husband. And just because she was a great customer. And to this day, she still shops with that brand. Like, I just know for sure. And, I think you see brands on Twitter, like pet brands, who have just sent a bouquet of flowers to somebody who lost their dog. They know that their dog passed away. Doing acts of kindness for your customers is the best kind of collaboration you could do, because it is a genuine. Now, it has to be genuine. That's a key part of it, but you can't fake that kind of gesture. So whether you want to take a part of your budget, your collaborating budget, and put that towards acts of kindness. We know that this customer, she lost her package and her house burned down. Hey, let's send her some free clothes. Like, if you can actually do stuff like that, that's the kind of, and that does fall under to collaborations in a way. Like, and it depends on the scale of, like, are we gifting people things, or are we actually like, hey, let's do a series with this customer. Just don't be afraid to bring
Yeah.
customers in and get them involved with your content just as much you would with your influencers, because if anyone is going to connect with your audience, it's your audience. Like, that's
Yes.
exactly who you're selling to, so they're going to relate.
They're part
So
of your
yeah,
community.
they're part of your community, and if anyone's going to connect with them, they are. So anything you want to
Yep.
add on to that before we crack on into affiliates and referrals and all that stuff?
I think you just mentioned referrals. That's another way that you can include your community and customers in with collaborations. Is it doesn't have to be a brand ambassador or influencer sharing the code. You can do a system where even your customer can get their own code and share that with all their friends and family. I think many times businesses overlook the customer, even though that's their main target. They could also be your collaborator.
Yeah, dagger in the heart. It is true. I think really always taking a step back, and I actually even keep my buyer persona slides up sometimes, just when I'm writing copy or working on a pitch of something, to just constantly remind myself and put myself in the shoes of, like, what are their pain points, what are their needs, what are their wants, what's actually going to interest them. I think more often than not, you have to remember that people don't care. Like, people are being bombarded with so much information. So I think actually having the code with your name in it with an easy access, which we've touched upon before, is one of my favorite strategies because it is so easily accessible. And it's easy to take to social. Anything that you can make easy for people to take to social media and share with their friends, that is an automatic. I know if I have a referral that's like, hey, I'm going to get 50 pounds or $50 if you sign up, and then you get $50, of course you're both going to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, referrals. And then you have affiliate partnerships. An affiliate is more like you are a brand ambassador for that company. So that falls into specific more niches within e-commerce brands of like not all e-commerce brands will necessarily want to have an affiliate program, but the ones that do, I think we've seen the rise of affiliate marketing happening. It's slowing down a little bit more. So just be aware that while it's worth investing time into it, it shouldn't be the top of the priority list because it's not going to bring us much revenue as say like email marketing is going to.
Yeah, for sure.
And then obviously I think looking at giveaways are a great way to get momentum going. But what you want to make sure is that the product or service that you are giving away, making sure that it makes sense for both of your audiences, right? So, a fashion brand teaming up with a makeup brand makes complete sense. A horse breeches brand teaming up with a horse shampoo brands makes sense. But the fashion brand teaming up with a horse shampoo doesn't make sense. You can't have them. You see, like it's got to match up because otherwise one of the audiences is going to see the giveaway and say, what, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why are these two people working together?
Yeah.
But then actually we've coined the phrase on TikTok, the collaboration I never knew that I needed. I mean, we're seeing TikTok stars and influencers team up, and we're really loving it. I know I'm loving it. I'm loving seeing my favorite influencers and collaborators like team up and make content together.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think, like you said, collaborating with strategic partners, like even within your community, if it's, a restaurant, for example. I know the one that I'm working with right now, they teamed up with a local organization that helps the community a lot. And they did a fundraiser, and it wasn't just, oh, you have to mention their name in order to get the fundraising dollars to that organization. They went ahead, and from the minute they opened to the time that they closed that day, all of 10% of all of that went to the organization. So I think, like you said, collaborating, making an impact is always the bottom line. Even when you're working with your influencers, your brand ambassadors, make it special, make it an offer that they'd be proud to share with others, but also that they can reap a reward from. I know one of the ones I'm working with right now, the brand ambassador program, is you get your own code, you can make content, do whatever to share that code. And if you get 5 sales off of that code, it could be anything, you get 50% off a whole order from the company.
Brilliant.
And we're inviting people that are already our loyal customers, and they're already making content, which is kind of cool.
That is super cool. And that's user generated content. So it's kind of 2 birds, 1 stone as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And don't also, I think, we had talked about thinking outside of the box when it comes to your incentives. And I think thinking outside of the box when it comes to your collaborations also, and thinking about, just because you are an e-commerce brand doesn't mean you can't work with nonprofits. If it is a mental health awareness month, team up with a mental health charity that you feel passionate about and offer something through that. One collaboration I really love to see is when e-commerce brands give a percentage of their sales towards a charity or nonprofit that they feel passionate about, like whether that is like present issue going on, whether that's like the war in Gaza or, when the Australian fires were happening, like getting as a brand behind these issues and supporting them, or whether it's longer term things like the Red Cross or Oxfam or things like that. So think outside of the box and thinking like, okay, here are brands that like you know, from a capitalist standpoint, they make sense for us, but also from a purpose driven standpoint, what makes sense, because that's what's going to resonate with people on social is the amount of purpose that's behind the collaboration.
I think one that I've seen often, especially within the cannabis industry, is I can't remember the exact organization's name, but it's like a petition and nonprofit to try to get people who are in jail for cannabis usage out, because now many states legalized it recreationally or medically, and those people are still locked up. So I've seen that across many Maryland cannabis companies and not only dispensaries, but people who are associated with that audience. And I think that's pretty impactful. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's been really interesting to see how the more controversial industries, I think the cannabis industry is more mainstream now, but we've seen psilocybin, we've seen plant medicines. They're navigating the social hemisphere, and it's really wild to see like how, how that's gonna blossom, no pun intended.
It's difficult too, because like a lot of people get instantly shadow banned. You can't use certain words because they're negative, and automatic bans on those things. But that community is definitely strong. I like to witness the things that are going on, especially on that side of socials. And it's interesting watching other brands and their brand ambassadors and influencers navigating it too, because it's definitely like you're in rough seas and you're like, stay afloat, don't sink.
Yes. And now we're actually seeing, I think, influencing expand in a way that is really interesting. Like I saw an advertisement. I don't know the girl's name. She's a comedian and she does the impersonation of like the Italian or her German dad. She does her German mother and her German dad. But she did an advertisement for like Tide Pods, for like light laundry Tide Pods. But it was such a good ad. And it was like one of her characters was like doing laundry. And I didn't even know it was an ad at first, but I loved that collaboration. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, that's so cool of Tide. Like, Tide, I wouldn't think would have a fun TikTok advert, but they teamed up with the right influencer who did that. And now I think Tide is a little bit cooler.
Another one, talking about collaborations, this is right on target. Deadpool and Wolverine, is that the new movie coming out?
I think so.
Tons and tons of collaborations. I don't know if you saw Heinz, but they did like ketchup and mustard, and they did it one Ant-Man and one Wolverine because it's the same colors.
I love Heinz marketing so much.
Yes. And now that we're on the topic of ads too, did you see the new branding of Best Buy?
No, I think I saw the IKEA advert, which let me have a quick look here. Best Buy branding.
It's now, I forget what his name is. His name Bert. I forget his name. It's a hologram and it comes out of the yellow tag.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm seeing this. That's wild. So they're going super virtualistic. But that makes sense for their brand though, right?
Yeah, because they're tech.
So and actually, now that you think of it, they were probably due for an update.
Oh, definitely. It's been how long?
It's been a while. It's like when the brawny guy got a mustache and then shaved it off. Like it's the cycle continues.
That's awesome. Well, this is great. I love this. I guess, do we want to run through our offer real quick?
Yeah, you take it away. Go ahead, seal the deal for us here.
Absolutely. So me and Grace have a deep dive social media e-commerce package, which is located on the palmpine.design website underneath services. It's an investment of $6,000. A audit is presented to you by Grace. She'll do deep dive research, see what needs to be implemented, and then my team will take it away for 3 months and actually implement what her findings were. And that will be across your social media. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment or reach out to either me or Grace. We'll be happy to answer. And we look forward to working with you guys.
Yes, I will drop the links for that offer and also the UTM tracking slides in the YouTube description below. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear we go live once a month to discuss e-commerce marketing for e-commerce brands.
Awesome, Grace. Have a great July, and I look forward to meeting with you again in August. Bye,
See you
guys.
soon. Ciao.
Bye.